All right, this tutorial is to help guide you through how to use Scratch and how to create your transformations on Scratch. Wherever you are in your Scratch account after you've logged in, you're going to click on the Create button, and that's going to get you to a new project. And once you get there, your layout is going to look something like this. So under code, you have many different instructions and commands you can give your animation, your project. There's code that covers motion, so movement, how your animation looks, how it sounds. Events is when you kind of give like an if-then statement. When I click on this button, this should happen, all that kind of stuff. Control is more about timing. Sensing kind of has to deal more with, what has been touched or pressed before something happens. Operators, variables, and blocks get a little bit more complicated, so you probably won't be using any of that. Your blocks are each of your commands. So a block is going to give the next direction to your animation. This right here is your workspace. This is where you drag your code over to create directions. Right here is your actual result, so you can test what you've actually commanded. And then these little guys are sprites, and you have a bunch of choices when it comes to sprites. So you can always add more sprites. They always start off with the cat. And then we'll get to costumes and sounds in a bit. So to start off, like I said, they'll give you the generic cat sprite, and you can name it here. You can duplicate it and all that kind of stuff. You can name it right here. So this one, they just start you off with Sprite 1, but I could call it cat. You can add other sprites as well. So there's a whole library of sprites to choose from. And sprites are just your main characters. Tons of stuff. This is all of them, but you can also go by category. So if we wanted to add a crystal, for instance, I could put a crystal there. Okay. And over here, it's going to tell you where your sprite is actually located. So every time I move, it's going to change the location. So just like in math, it has the x coordinate and the y coordinate. So if you notice the y coordinate, it goes up and down, but there's negatives here. So right in the middle is 0. So it's kind of like it has a coordinate there. And then it also tells you direction, so this will help you with rotation. It'll help you with size for dilation. You can also hide a sprite if you don't want to deal with it right now. There's tons of stuff you can work with. There's the backdrop, so the background. And you can always add a whole bunch of different backgrounds here. So I could put my cat and my diamond in a spaceship, I can put them underwater, what have you. But there's tons of stuff that you can choose from. Like I can put it in space. Okay. There's also ways for you to create your own. So like you can paint your own background, you can upload a background. Same with sprites, you can choose a picture from your computer and create or upload your own sprite. You can Google search for it. There's Surprise in case you just want to get one randomly. You can paint your own sprite as well. So tons of options if you don't like what's already offered to you. All right, so now that we're here and we've kind of gone through everything that there is in general, let's have our sprite or both of our sprites do some animation. So first off, you're going to want to choose an event. So you can have all your animation basically start when you click on the green flag. That's what most people do. Other times people will have their animation start when the space bar is pressed or when somebody clicks on the sprite, but most people will just start with the green flag. So the green flag is what starts it. Right now, if I click on the green flag, nothing has been programmed to do anything. Okay. Let me highlight my cat. So each of those sprites have their own commands. So when I click on cat, it has its commands. Crystal has its own commands. So let's have my cat do something. Let's have it walk. Let's have it start right here at -182 and -6. It's going to always start here. So even if my cat is here, when I press on the green flag, it's going to go automatically to the starting point, which was those coordinates, -182 and -6. And you can always type other things in there as well. So you can like move it over a bit more. Or if you want like round numbers, you can do that. All right, and then for my crystal, I can have it start here. It's at 54, -6, go to 54, -6. So again, even if they're moved all over the place, they'll eventually get there when I press on the green. Okay, so that would be a good place to start, is to get your sprites to their starting points first by using the Go To button. And then I would probably want, let's say I was trying to make my my cat move towards the crystal. Go To sets it to the location. I can always, let's see, use glide. And I'm going to glide to, let's see, the crystals. Or sorry, the crystal is at this location, 54, -6. Right now I'm clicking on crystal, 54, -6. So I'm going to make my cat glide, not to a random location, but 54, -6. And it says it's going to take 1 second to glide there, so that's really quick. Let's do 3 seconds and see what happens. There we go. It kind of covers it, so let's move it over here more. That'd be 54, or no, that'd be 10. 10. So a lot of coding is just playing around and trying things out. So let's try it again. There we go, it stops right there. So that right there would be a translation. Gliding is a good way to translate. You can also look at other motions. So my suggestion for you for dilate would probably be in looks. You can maybe change the size by different scales or by percentages. Let's see. You could also use this timing thing. So maybe you wait 1 second before it glides. 1 second and then it moves. So play around. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. So we just talked about how you could do dilate by looking at the size, changing the size. We talked about translating. Next there's rotation and reflection. So rotation, and you can also scroll this way if you don't want to keep changing the categories. Let's see, rotation. Oh, right up here is turning. So this is kind of cool because you can turn it, but this is only 15 degrees. So see how much that is. Wait 1 second, glide 3 seconds, and turns by a little bit. So if you want to turn by many degrees, you would probably want to have to layer that on. Oh, but look, it already started with that degrees. Okay, so To start off, you would probably want to point in the direction 90 degrees. It might, yeah, there we go. Get it right back up. So again, start off by where you want it to go, its starting location, and have it pointing into the direction 90 degrees so it's upright whenever you click on the green flag. And then if you notice for the 15 degrees each time, it doesn't really show the the rotating little by little. So you might have to do like a wait 1 second and then turn 15 degrees again. So you can see the rotating. There we go. So it's kind of waited 1 second and then you can kind of like keep layering on 15 degrees. Or you could use the repeat, and then you can have it repeat 10 times. It would wait 1 second, turn 15 degrees. Loop again. Wait 1 second, turn 15 degrees. Do that 10 times. So lots of cool stuff that you can kind of play around with. So it's going to do that 10 times until it finishes that loop. And you might have to figure out how many times you want to do it for that cat to get right side up again. So you can change the amount of times. And again, Crystal hasn't done any animation, so you can do some animation to the crystal as well. Okay, so we covered translation, rotation, dilation. Didn't show you dilation, but you can kind of figure that out on your own. And then reflection is a little difficult because you want your sprite to flip all the way around. What I would suggest is going into costumes. Oh, look, you can change your crystal to the purple one. Okay. You might want to go into costumes, and then you might have to flip your costume that way. So if I have costume 2 for a cat, costume 2 is it running, so you can kind of change between that. But what I could do to create a reflection for the original sprite, costume 1, is I could duplicate it, change it to costume 3, and then I could flip it like that. So now I have a costume 3 that is the flipped version. It's basically costume 1 but flipped. So again, you have to go into costumes to kind of do that. And then for your code, let me have it start. Oh, that's not good that it's starting. So, oh, it's because I have it in a different costume. Okay. So what we could do is go to looks and have it switch to costume 1. That's what we started off with. There we go. So now it's right side up. And then if I wanted to have it flipped, remember the flipped costume was costume 3. So we'll see if that works at the end. So after the 10 rotations, we'll see if it flips. There we go. So it'll flip over to the other side. Okay. The only thing with the costumes and the flipping is you have to remember the name of it. But you could always rename it. Let's see, how do I rename it here? Not sure how I rename it here. Oh, right here, right here. So you can name this to flipped, and you can name this one to original, and you can name this one walking. So in that way it's easier for you to remember. And it should, yep, it should change on the code, the blocks for you. So create your own Scratch animation. Give a little story. Don't just go through and do the 4 different transformations because that'll be boring. You have all this stuff to play around with. You can change backdrops, make it into a little story. Like, what is this cat doing with this crystal? Maybe there's an enemy that comes over and tries to get it or whatever. Okay. Very important at the end is to name your project. So I might want to name this Transformations Project, and then make sure that you share it. Once you share it, that'll allow me to see your project. If you don't share it, then I won't be able to see your project. So very important on sharing it. And then if you click See Inside, then you'll be able to see all this stuff. See Project Page will allow whoever is shared to just see what you've animated and not necessarily the inside. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions as you're working on this, because you may have something that you want to try out that I haven't actually included in this video. Okay? And I'll be seeing you in class.